You are surrounded by people who will never respect you, not because you are weak, but because you have never shown them who you truly are. You have been playing by rules written by men who feared power. You have been taught to be humble, to be agreeable, to make yourself small so that others feel comfortable around you. And what did that earn you? Nothing. Silence, invisibility, the cold indifference of a world that only bows to those who refuse to be ignored. Machiavelli did not write for the kind. He wrote for the dangerous. He wrote for the man who finally gets tired of being overlooked and decides, quietly, deliberately, without announcing it to anyone, that he will never be that man again. That decision is where kings are born, not in triumph, not in applause, in silence, in darkness. In the moment, a man looks at the world around him and stops asking for a seat at the table and starts building his own. That man is you. And by the end of this, you will never move through the world with anything less than the cold, unshakable authority of a king. Number 1. The world doesn't reward good men. It devours them. Understand this before anything else. The world is not a fair place. It was never designed to be. Goodness without power is just weakness with a better name. The man who leads with kindness and expects loyalty in return is not noble. He is naive, and naivety is the most expensive trait a man can carry. History does not remember the gentle. It remembers the ruthless. It remembers the men who looked at the chaos of the world and chose not to flinch, but to conquer. Every empire, every dynasty, every structure of lasting power was built not on love, but on calculated, deliberate, unapologetic dominance. That is the truth they buried in classrooms. The good man finishes last, not because goodness is wrong, but because he weaponizes it incorrectly. He gives trust before it is earned. He shows mercy before the threat is neutralized. He opens his chest to men who are already sharpening their knives behind their smiles. He mistakes proximity for loyalty and pays for it in silence. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He wrote it plainly, coldly, without remorse. A prince who relies entirely on the goodness of men will be destroyed because men are not consistently good. They are consistently self-interested. And the man who refuses to accept that truth will be used, discarded, and forgotten. Drop "the world bows to power" in the comments if this is already hitting different. I need to know who is truly awake in this room. The dark truth is that most men around you are performing loyalty while calculating their next move. They smile at your face and measure your weakness behind your back. The world runs on hidden agendas, silent hierarchies, and unspoken power games. And the man who pretends otherwise is already losing. This is not cynicism. This is clarity. There is a difference between the man who is broken by the truth and the man who is sharpened by it. One becomes bitter, the other becomes dangerous. One collapses under the weight of reality, the other builds his throne on top of it. You are here because something inside you already knows this. Something cold, ancient, and unignorable has been whispering it for years. Today, you finally listen. Number 2, silence is not emptiness. It is the deadliest weapon ever forged. Most men cannot stop talking. They explain themselves. They justify their decisions. They fill every silence with nervous words, desperate to be understood, terrified of being misread. And in doing so, they hand over the most dangerous weapon in existence: information. Every word you speak unnecessarily is a bullet you load into someone else's gun. Machiavelli understood that the most powerful man in any room is rarely the loudest. He is the one who observes everything, reveals nothing, and lets others destroy themselves with their own words. Silence is not absence. Silence is pressure. It is the kind of psychological weight that makes weak men confess, strong men uncomfortable, and enemies uncertain. When you stop explaining yourself, something shifts. People begin to project onto you. They fill your silence with their own fears, their own assumptions, their own respect. You become larger than you actually are in that moment, not because you performed power, but because you withheld yourself. And withholding in the game of authority is everything. The man who speaks too much is the man who is always seeking validation. Every sentence is a quiet plea. Understand me, accept me, approve of me. That energy is detected instantly by everyone around you. It signals insecurity. It signals that your sense of self depends on their reaction, and nothing destroys authority faster than dependence. If this is unlocking something in you, drop "silence is my power" in the comments. Let me see who is truly beginning to understand what real authority feels like. Study the kings throughout history. Study the men who made entire rooms fall still when they walked in. They were not louder than everyone else. They were more controlled. Their words were rare, which made them valuable. Their silences were long, which made them terrifying. They understood that the man who controls his tongue controls the entire dynamic. There is a coldness that comes with mastering silence. People will call it arrogance. They will call it distance. They will say you have changed, that you are difficult to read, that something about you unsettles them. Good. That unsettling feeling they cannot name. That is respect forming in real time. From this moment forward, let your silence speak louder than any man's words ever could. Say less, mean more, and watch the world rearrange itself around you. Number 3, they don't fear your anger, they fear your indifference. Most men believe that rage is power. They raise their voice, they slam their fists, they erupt, believing that intensity equals authority. But rage is not power. Rage is confession. Every time you lose control, you are publicly announcing that someone or something outside of you has the ability to dictate your internal state. That is not dominance. That is slavery. The truly dangerous man does not explode. He goes cold. There is a particular kind of stillness that settles over a man who has mastered his emotions, a stillness that is not peace, but precision. He does not react. He calculates. He does not retaliate immediately. He files the information away quietly and moves when the timing serves him, not when his emotions demand it. Machiavelli was ruthlessly clear on this. The prince who is ruled by his passions will always be manipulated by men who are not. Your anger tells your enemy exactly where your limits are. Your indifference tells them nothing, and a man who reveals nothing about his breaking point is a man no one can strategically destroy. He becomes unreadable, untouchable, unkillable. Drop "I am cold, I am calculated, I am untouchable" in the comments right now. Say it like you mean it, because by the end of this video, you will mean it completely. Here is the darkest truth about indifference. It hurts people more than anger ever could. When you rage at someone, you are telling them they matter enough to disturb you. But when you look at them with absolute calm, with total emotional distance, with eyes that register them as utterly irrelevant, that destroys something inside them that anger never could. People are wired to seek reaction. They poke, they provoke, they push, because a reaction confirms their power over you. The moment you deny them that reaction, you strip them of the only weapon they had. And stripped of their weapon, they are exposed, vulnerable, powerless, while you remain completely, devastatingly unmoved. This is the coldest form of dominance ever discovered. Not the man who conquers through force, but the man who conquers through stillness. The man who could destroy you, who perhaps already has plans to, but who sits across from you completely unbothered, completely unreadable, completely in control. That man does not demand respect. He simply exists, and respect has no choice but to follow. Number 4, the man who needs nothing from you has already defeated you. Power does not begin with strategy. It does not begin with influence or wealth or status. It begins with detachment. The moment you truly, completely, irreversibly stop needing approval, stop needing validation, stop needing people to understand you, stop needing outcomes to go your way, you become something that most men will never be. You become free. And freedom is the rarest form of power on earth. Most men are controlled not by their enemies, but by their desires. Their need for love makes them tolerate disrespect. Their need for acceptance makes them betray themselves. Their need for success makes them desperate. And desperation is visible, it is repulsive, and it hands control of your entire life to whoever is watching closely enough to see it. You are being controlled right now by something you refuse to admit you need. Machiavelli identified this with surgical coldness. The prince who is desperate for allies will attract betrayers. The man who openly craves power will be denied it by the very people who could grant it. Because need is weakness in disguise, and the world's power brokers can smell need the way predators smell blood, from a distance, in the dark, before you even know they are watching. Detachment is not coldness for its own sake. It is a calculated repositioning of your entire psychological foundation. When you detach from outcomes, you think clearer. When you detach from opinions, you move faster. When you detach from relationships that no longer serve your ascent, you stop carrying the dead weight that has been quietly drowning your potential for years. Drop "I need nothing," "I fear nothing," "I bow to no one" in the comments. That is not arrogance. That is the declaration of a man who has finally decided to be sovereign over his own life. Here is what no one tells you about detachment. It does not make you empty. It makes you magnetic. When people sense that you do not need them, they are inexplicably drawn to you. When they realize their approval means nothing to your peace, they become obsessed with earning your attention. The less you reach, the more they chase. That is not coincidence. That is human psychology operating exactly as Machiavelli predicted. The king does not chase, he does not beg, he does not negotiate his worth with people who were never qualified to assess it. He builds, he moves, he rises, quietly, deliberately, without seeking a single witness. And one morning the world wakes up and realizes the man they overlooked has become completely, utterly, devastatingly unreachable. Number 5. Your circle is either building your throne or digging your grave. Every man you allow into your inner circle is either an asset or a liability. There is no middle ground. There is no neutral presence. Every person who occupies space in your life is either contributing to your rise or quietly, invisibly, systematically draining the energy that was meant to build your empire. Most men never audit this. And that oversight costs them everything. Machiavelli was merciless on this point. He understood that the greatest threat to a powerful man is never his external enemy. It is the wrong ally. The enemy you can see, you can prepare for. The betrayer sitting at your table, eating your food, speaking your name with warmth in public, that man is the one who dismantles kingdoms. History is soaked in the blood of great men destroyed by trusted companions. Look around you right now. Truly look. Identify the men who celebrate your wins without hesitation and the ones who pause just a fraction of a second too long before congratulating you. That pause is not nothing. That pause is envy wearing a mask. And envy, left unchecked inside your circle, is a slow poison that has no antidote except removal. The coldest skill a powerful man can develop is the ability to cut without guilt, not with anger, not with explanation, not with a dramatic confrontation that gives the other person significance they no longer deserve. You simply close the door, quietly, permanently, and you never look back with anything resembling regret. Sentimentality is a luxury kings cannot afford. Drop "My circle is my fortress" in the comments if you are finally ready to protect your energy like the asset it truly is. Because the wrong people in your life are not just a social problem, they are a strategic catastrophe. Here is the forbidden truth about loyalty. It is not declared, it is demonstrated, over time, under pressure. In moments when supporting you costs something, any man can stand beside you when you are winning. The true measure of a man's loyalty is what he does when you are struggling, when you are vulnerable, when backing you carries a risk. Most men in your life have never been truly tested, and untested loyalty is simply an illusion you have chosen to believe. Rebuild your circle like a king building his war council. Every seat must be earned, every presence must be justified, every man around you must make you sharper, stronger, more dangerous than you were before he arrived. Anything less is not a circle, it is a cage, comfortable enough that you never realize the door was locked from the outside. Number 6. Never show them how far you have fallen. Never show them how high you are climbing. The most dangerous thing you will ever do is let people track your progress. The moment someone can measure your journey, see where you started, observe where you are, calculate how far you have yet to go, they gain something deeply dangerous. They gain perspective over you. And perspective in the wrong hands becomes a weapon sharper than any blade ever forged. Machiavelli taught that the prince must master the art of concealment, not deception for its own sake, but strategic invisibility. The man who broadcasts his struggles invites predators. The man who announces his ambitions invites saboteurs. The man who reveals his plans before they are executed gives his enemies the rarest gift imaginable, time to prepare a response before you have even moved. Most men are addicted to being witnessed. They post their failures for sympathy. They post their victories for validation. They document their entire journey publicly, not understanding that every piece of information they release is being studied by rivals, by envious men, by people who smile at their face and calculate their weaknesses in private. Visibility without power is just exposure. The kings who built the most enduring empires operated in darkness until the moment of absolute readiness. They did not announce campaigns before armies were assembled. They did not reveal strategies before positions were secured. They moved in silence, struck with precision, and only allowed the world to see the result, never the process. The result alone commands respect. The process only invites interference. Drop "I move in silence and strike like thunder" in the comments right now, because that is exactly the energy this section demands and exactly the mindset that separates the powerful from the perpetually overlooked. There is a psychological dimension to this that cuts even deeper. When people cannot track you, they cannot categorize you. When they cannot categorize you, they cannot underestimate you. When they cannot underestimate you, they are forced into a position of permanent caution around you. That caution, that subtle uncertainty in how they treat you, that is the beginning of genuine, unforced respect. Stop performing your journey for an audience that is not invested in your destination. Go dark, go quiet, disappear into the work, into the discipline, into the cold and unglamorous process of becoming someone truly formidable. Let the world wonder what you are building. Let them speculate. Let them watch the horizon nervously, because they can sense something is coming, but they cannot see it yet. And when you finally arrive, you will not need to announce yourself. Your presence will do it for you, completely, devastatingly, permanently. Number 7. Respect built on kindness collapses. Respect built on power lasts forever. There is a version of respect that is nothing more than politeness in disguise. People are nice to you because it is socially convenient, because conflict is uncomfortable, because maintaining surface-level harmony costs them nothing. That is not respect. That is management. And the man who mistakes being managed for being respected is living inside a very expensive illusion. Machiavelli drew this line with brutal clarity. He argued that it is far safer to be feared than loved, because love is held in place by obligation, and obligation dissolves the moment it becomes inconvenient. But power, real power, the kind that is built through unwavering standards and cold consistency, that commands a respect that does not require the other person to like you or even understand you. Build your authority on rock, not on warmth. Set standards so high and hold them so consistently that people around you have no choice but to recalibrate their behavior in your presence. Not because you demanded it, not because you threatened it, but because your very existence in the room raises the standard of what is acceptable. That is the rarest, coldest, most unshakable form of respect a man can ever command. Number 8. The most dangerous man alive is the one who has already decided he has nothing to lose. There is a particular kind of man that even the most powerful people in any room instinctively avoid provoking. He is not the loudest. He is not the most aggressive. He is not even the strongest physically. He is the man who has walked through enough darkness that he has stopped fearing it entirely, and a man who does not fear darkness cannot be controlled by the threat of it. Suffering, when it does not destroy you, produces something that no amount of strategy or education ever could: an unbreakable psychological foundation. The man who has lost everything and rebuilt in silence carries a coldness in his eyes that the comfortable man will never possess. He has already visited the worst version of his life and survived it. What exactly do you threaten him with now? Machiavelli understood that the most ungovernable force in human affairs is the man who operates beyond the reach of ordinary fear. You cannot manipulate someone who needs nothing. You cannot intimidate someone who has already faced annihilation and chosen to rise anyway. That man does not calculate risk the way ordinary men do, because he has already paid the highest price imaginable and emerged sharper, colder, and completely, terrifyingly free. Number 9. Power is never given to those who wait. It is seized by those who dare. The world does not hand thrones to patient men. Patience without movement is not virtue. It is paralysis dressed in dignified clothing. The man who waits for permission, waits for the right moment, waits for conditions to align perfectly before he acts, is the man who dies waiting. Power does not descend from the sky. It is ripped from the hands of those too weak to hold it. Machiavelli called this virtù, not virtue in the moral sense, but the raw, savage capacity to impose your will upon circumstances that were never designed to favor you. The king does not wait for fortune to smile at him. He grabs fortune by the throat and bends it to his direction. He moves when others hesitate. He decides when others deliberate. He acts when others are still asking for permission. Every day you spend consuming without building, observing without moving, planning without executing, is a day you surrender to men less capable but more ruthless than you. Capability without action is the most tragic waste in human existence. The graveyards of this world are filled with potential that never became power because the man carrying it was simply waiting for a moment that was never going to arrive on its own. Number 10. The king was never crowned. He simply stopped asking for permission to rule. No one is coming to hand you authority. No one is coming to validate your potential, acknowledge your suffering, or finally give you the recognition you have been quietly bleeding for. That moment you have been waiting for, where the world turns around and sees you for what you truly are, will never arrive unless you force it into existence with your bare hands. The crown was never a physical object. It was never a title, a position, or a public declaration. It is a decision, the coldest, most irreversible decision a man can make, to carry himself as though the throne already belongs to him. Not with arrogance, not with performance, but with the quiet, unshakable, bone-deep certainty of a man who has already settled the question of his own worth, permanently and privately. Machiavelli's final and most forbidden lesson was this: the most powerful men in history did not become kings and then develop authority. They developed authority first, in silence, in darkness, in the unglamorous privacy of their own becoming, and the world, sensing something it could not name but could not ignore, simply rearranged itself around them. Drop "I was born to rule" in the comments. Say it once. Mean it forever. If this video reached something deep inside you, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because what we discuss on Psyche Session is not content. It is the forbidden knowledge that was always meant for you, and we are just getting started.